Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Now, I have had a few emails again this week from people saying, Neil, you've been interviewing hundreds of people every year for nearly 5 years now. But what do they all have in common? Is there a secret to their success? And I've got to say, and I have said this before, that after 1,200 interviews, I can safely say that most of my guests just follow their hearts, visualize their goal, and things kind of just happen. Moments of serendipity, happy accidents, whatever you want to call them. Almost feels like the universe gives them a little helping hand along their journey. To be honest, I really should start documenting more of these stories because I'm hearing them time and time again. But today's guest is a great example of just that, because I should have been talking to Pete Mastin from Jalokia today. But after a few random events, Jalokia became Inferno AR as it was taken over by a public company called NexTech AR Solutions. So today, Evan Gappelberg, CEO of NexTech AR Solutions, about augmented reality, virtual conferences, and so much more. But most importantly, how this technology can be used to drive business growth and solve real-world business problems. So buckle up and hold on tight so I can beam your ears all the way to Florida so we can speak with Evan Gappelberg from NexTech AR Solutions. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. My name is Evan Gappelberg. I'm CEO of NexTech AR Solutions, which is the first publicly traded pure play augmented reality company. We listed our company in late 2018 on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the symbol NTAR, and then in the US in Q1 of 2019 under the symbol NEXCF. And it's been an exciting ride. Our stock has gone up 1,000% since we first started trading just a little over a year ago.
Well, there's not many companies that could say that right now, is there?
I don't think so. And, we continue to thrive. It's a human tragedy what's happening with this pandemic for sure. And I, feel for everybody that it's affecting. It's certainly tragic for those people. But for NexTech, we happen to be in the right place at the right time with augmented reality and virtual conferences.
And on this daily tech podcast, every day I speak to a different startup founder from anywhere in the world or a CEO talking about how technology has transformed their world. And many people will say to me, but Neil, what do all these leaders have in common? And I would say that one of the big things that they all share in common, all these stories share, is the role of serendipity, those happy accidents. And speaking of happy accidents, the fact that me and you are here talking today is somewhat of a happy accident, isn't it? Because I was supposed to be speaking with the CEO of Jalokia, and obviously you've gone and acquired those. But can you tell me a little bit about that story, just to set the scene for everyone listening?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, by the way. This is, it's interesting. For anybody that's trying to think about a startup, if you think about it in a linear way, if you have a linear way of thinking where, A is going to lead to B, is going to lead to C and D, and you start to map it out, the risks end up being too high and you don't do it. It's just too risky, right? And so most people, they think about ideas. I know from past experience that if you jump in and you believe in yourself and you're passionate about what you're doing, those are key ingredients. They sound, like something small, but unless you're passionate, unless you love what you're doing and you're unwilling to yield, because you will be, put to the test. But if you jump in, serendipity, like you said, has a way of taking over. It's the belief that NexTech was going to be a successful company that propelled us. Where it started out augmented reality, pure play company. Within a couple of months in, I realized that augmented reality is really early days. Like there isn't a lot of business to be had in the world. It's a cool tech, but back in 2018, when we first started, it was just emerging and getting on people's radar. And so I made a difficult decision at the time to acquire a number of e-commerce businesses. And that changed the course of history for NexTech, where we integrated our augmented reality into these e-com businesses. Now, e-com is the business, meaning we're still augmented reality, but in the world of a pandemic, e-commerce is what everybody is using to purchase their goods online. I mean, Amazon, is kind of probably 50% of the world's economy these days. And we have two very strong e-commerce divisions that are scaling very, very rapidly. And then just to add more serendipity, I'm presenting IBM with our augmented reality. And the guy at IBM, this guy Jeff, says, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine. I think you guys might be able to do some business together. And that was the CEO of Jalokia, Pete, who you originally had this call scheduled for. And I spoke to Pete, and he's talking to me about virtual conferences, and I'm like not able to connect the dots, but I like Pete, and I'm kind of like, all right, let's keep in touch. And next thing that happens is we sign a partner agreement in January of 2020, which again, was really just to get us more acquainted with each other. And I didn't know what to expect. What happens? A pandemic. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, right? A pandemic shows up, and all of a sudden the light bulb goes off for me, where I'm like, wait a minute, virtual conferences, virtual trade shows, virtual training, and add our augmented reality tech stack. Wow, that's something super new, super exciting, and super relevant. And so we negotiated within 6 weeks time. We closed on a deal with acquiring Jalokia, and here we are. And then there's lots of twists and turns I left out. I don't want to spend an hour talking about all the amazing coincidental or serendipitous things that's happened in the last year or so. But that's the short version.
It's amazing, is it? The more and more people I talk with, it's almost like the universe is watching. If you actually sit down and think about how the stars must align for you to be in the right place at the right time, at the right moment, to have the required skill sets and everything that you want for that thing to happen at that moment, it would blow your mind, wouldn't it, if you sit down and think about it?
It would. And, I've spent my life training my brain, training my mind to think in a positive format, to think optimistically, to think that I'm going to succeed, that no matter how bleak it might look on any given day, that this too shall pass, and that there are sunny days ahead. And so, if you think about that, it's not, it sounds great, but it's not easy, day to day. So I've trained my mind over time. And what I realize is that the mind has incredible powers. It's almost like a magnet. If you put a magnet down on a table next to another magnet, you can't see the magnetic force, but they pull or they push. So the magnetic force is there, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the mind. It's almost like our thoughts are magnetized, and whatever we think about comes about. So if you're thinking, I'm going to make this work, somehow you're right. The universe conspires to help you, and it it somehow, magnetizes. I don't know how it works, but I know it works. Magnetizes your thoughts, and somehow you bring other people into your universe. They bring you into their universe of thinking, and the net is you end up with a successful life and a successful business. And it's very fascinating, and it's not something that you can learn in the world of business books or business school. It's a totally different education, but very fascinating.
And I was recently reading Roger Daltrey's book about his time with The Who and how they formed and everything. And he always spoke about that above Keith Moon's bed, he had 3 posters. One was of Steve McQueen, one was a surfer girl, and three was being in a rock and roll band. And then it was almost like he visualized that that's what he wanted in life. And obviously he ended up being in The Who. He moved to San Francisco or somewhere, and he ended up living next door to Steve McQueen and marrying a surfer girl. I mean, you just couldn't make that up, could you?
There you go. I mean, that just tells you how powerful the mind is. And that he spent hundreds or thousands of hours looking, dreaming, manifesting that world until it shows up. And, we're having a fascinating conversation here, Neil. It's really about, life, and, business is just, one piece, but it has to do, like you said, with where you live, the relationships you have, how your life plays out is largely determined by what you think about on a daily basis.
It really does. And here in 2020, of course, now you've got this video learning experience platform that's being used by Fortune 1000 companies and startups all over the world. But can you tell me a little bit more about how you're using technology and the problems that you're solving for your customers as a result?
Sure. So everybody, as you know, is either in quarantine or if they're out of quarantine, they still can't have major events with large gatherings of people. So virtual conferences, $150 billion industry, the conference business, according to LinkedIn, there's 500,000 conferences annually. All of that's come to a hard stop. And so virtual conferences have stepped into this huge void and filled that void. And we have the only platform that offers augmented reality plus a virtual conference. And we've pivoted the Jalokia platform, which was really built as a virtual training platform for Johnson & Johnson, for Alberta Health Services, for Merck, for Toyota, for Polycom. They have a list of blue chip clients that use their platform for virtual training for the last decade. But when I looked at their platform, I thought to myself, well, if we just make a couple of adjustments, tweak it, we could turn it into a juggernaut where virtual conferences, virtual trade shows, virtual training, I mean, they're all, they go hand in hand. It's basically the same technology, just, dressed up and tilted in a different direction. And, it also extends to virtual product tours, webcasts, webinars, virtual panels, keynotes. We recently integrated Zoom into the platform. And then this week, we just integrated Microsoft Teams and Skype. And soon we're going to integrate pretty much all the video conferencing platforms available so that when you go in to the platform, and it's no longer called Jalokia, by the way. Jalokia was the parent company. We've rebranded it as Inferno AR as the platform name. And so I'm going to use that as we keep talking about it. Yeah.
And why do you think interactive video and augmented reality are such a perfect fit for that learning process?
Well, there's a stickiness. It's kind of like, when you play with a toy, you get fully immersed in it. When you're able to see an object, interact with it, it's a totally different experience than watching a video. And so videos are certainly more interesting than previously. Just kind of talking heads, or I mean, podcasts, which we're doing now, are great if you're driving, right? If you're driving, a podcast is grand slam. You can't watch video if you're driving. But beyond that, everybody loves video because you get to see the person and you get to kind of know them a little bit better. You get a little closer to the speaker. And then if you go further than that, augmented reality we could bring a speaker out of the screen as a hologram and drop him in the room. So you and I could be talking on a video event on the Inferno AR platform, and the audience would be able to scan a QR code and magically pull you or me or both of us out of the screen, plant us in their room at home, and we would show up as a life-size, fully volumetric hologram. Now, we're working on creating a live streaming version. Not quite there yet, but a video version, meaning pre-recorded, we have, and it's in market now. And so a person is super exciting, but a product is equally as exciting. So if we're talking about a specific new product that we're launching, it could be anything, right? You can pull that product, place it in your room, spin it, zoom it, enlarge it, walk around it. It's as if it's there. It looks like it's there. And so that experience, Neil, is really the future of all technology, where everything becomes up close, personal, volumetric. It's no longer trying to imagine what it would look like. You're actually going to be able to experience it. So that's why the tech is so powerful.
It's incredibly cool and exciting. But for any business leaders listening, do you have any examples you can share about you're helping those enterprise customers with these powerful driven feature sets right now?
So, as I mentioned, we just acquired this platform, about a week ago, last week. And so everything that we've integrated is brand new. We're currently negotiating with major Fortune 500 companies. We've landed a number of deals. These are all brand new deals with companies like Dell, TELUS, and others that we are working on creating these use cases. But this is brand new stuff. Up until now, it hasn't existed. Of course, the Inferno platform has existed, so virtual training is something that has gone on between, Johnson & Johnson, as I mentioned earlier. They use video, but not the augmented reality. So the video training has been around for 10 years. The augmented reality piece is brand spanking new and, just about to launch.
And I think what I'm also thinking here is when you think about augmented reality and virtual reality and these experiential learning experiences there, when they become the norm, that's what people are going, that becomes the new standard, and people expect that everywhere. And that's going to further help it grow and evolve as well. So it's incredibly exciting, isn't it, where this is heading?
It is. It's going to be the new normal. Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple Computer, has talked glowingly about augmented reality. It's being built into people's smartphones so that everybody has a device on them today that allows them to experience augmented reality. And so it's going to become more and more prevalent. The real holy grail is creating a pair of glasses. And there's even a company out there creating a pair of contact lenses, if you can imagine. They just raised $50 million on top of $100 million because they have a contact lens that allows you to experience augmented reality. So right now, it's all through your phone, which is fine. Your phone camera is super exciting to see, virtual objects through. But imagine being hands-free, where you're wearing a pair of Apple, very stylish, very futuristic looking glasses. And as you're walking, you could be walking past a restaurant and, a cheeseburger with, bacon and mushrooms and onions, all of a sudden appears in front of you as you're walking past the restaurant, spinning and, saying, there could be a sign that says, stop in for a bite now. And it's like in your face, and you obviously won't be able to resist that type of temptation. And you'll end up walking in. And it could be clothing, it could be a car. It's basically, just imagine the possibilities, right? It's unlimited. Once you have it hands-free, you talk about virtual reality, which is exciting, very immersive, but you can't walk around a room wearing those goggles, right? Glasses, on the other hand, or contact lenses, you're able to function just like you are today, but everywhere you look, there's a virtual 3D representation, or there's instructional videos, instructional content, overlays, all kinds of fun and exciting things that will keep you entertained and really make your life that much more interactive with your environment. So yeah, super exciting time to be in the world of augmented reality.
And as someone that's working right in the heart of this space and seeing all the art of the possible on the horizon and what you can do now as well, but what excites you most about how you will eventually leverage these technologies to create even more products and different services?
I mean, what excites me the most is that we're just getting started, that this is still just the first inning, that everything we're doing today is really ground zero. Everything that we're talking about sounds super exciting, right? I mean, it's not like this isn't exciting stuff, but imagine 10 years from now where you're experiencing augmented reality morning, noon, and night. It's just part of your life. It's like you can't even think about a world without it. It's kind of like your cell phone, and it will replace your cell phone. The glasses are going to replace the cell phone, and your life will change forever. And so the most exciting thing for me is really the glasses. When Apple drops the glasses, which are expected to happen in the next 12 to 24 months, this is in development. This has been in development for years already. When they drop it, the world will change forever. It will be the equivalent of when they dropped the first iPhone, or the first personal computer came to market, or the internet, the birth of the internet. It will be that transformational for society, where you will see the lines, out the door, around the block, and wrapped around the next block, trying to get a pair of these augmented reality glasses. And really only Apple has the ability to change the world that way. And so I'm most excited about that, because once that happens, it really opens the floodgates for everybody to be experiencing augmented reality. Right now, it's still in the early days. There's globally, Gartner says, there'll be 100 million people shopping using AR this year in 2020. 100 million people is a big number, but it's still a drop in the bucket compared to, the global population of over 7 billion.
And I think I should also point out, of course, that you are a public company, and NexTech AR Solutions symbol is NEXCF. So can you tell me a little bit more about that and the responsibilities that come with having a public company?
Sure. So, as we mentioned earlier, Neil, I founded NexTech AR Solutions back in January of 2018. I raised a couple of $1 million from my friends, and I also put in a significant amount of capital as well. We went public on the CSE in Q4 of 2018, and the stock was priced originally at 25 cents. Today it hit a high of $3, and so that's over 1,000% return from our original investors. And most of those investors, if not all of those investors, they're all long term. They're friendly. These are my friends that have been friends of mine since, some of them since third grade. Some of them since for decades. And so they're in this for the long haul. This is still the early days. And I look at NexTech and I feel like we're just getting started. We just acquired this virtual events conference company. We're getting a tremendous amount of interest from all major companies all around the globe. Latin American companies are calling us, every day of the week. European companies, North American companies. It's a global phenomenon. And so, I just can't be more excited, again, that we're in the right place at the right time. It would really have sucked, Neil, if I had started a restaurant business or a travel business and the pandemic comes and just, in one day pulls the rug out and destroys it. That would have been horrible. But the opposite happened. We're an e-com business with augmented reality and virtual events. That's really the story of NexTech.
And I know it's early days and life must feel like it's moving at 1,000 miles an hour at the moment, but what's next for Inferno AR? Is there anything you can share about your vision for that today?
Yeah, we're going to continue to beef up the platform, add more features, more functionality, more integration. We really want to be an AR first virtual events company where that's a first, right? I mean, that Zoom doesn't have augmented reality as a feature that you can utilize. Although some of the screens, I don't know if you've noticed, but Zoom has brought in like the snap camera, and there's some filters you can use to change your background.
Yeah.
You've seen that, right? So that's augmented reality. So that's kind of the tip of the iceberg. It's changing your backgrounds. And so what my goal is to turn Inferno AR into the leading augmented reality virtual events platform. Zoom is not an augmented reality platform. We want to have an augmented reality first platform for virtual events, virtual conferences, virtual trade shows, virtual training, virtual product tours, webcasts, panels, custom events. And so we're building that out now. We have a roadmap, and it's going to be one exciting ride because the market is ready for it. The market is asking for it. It wants what we're selling, what we're creating. And so now it's just, run as fast as you can and try and keep up with this tidal wave of business.
And of course, the problem with any new technology, especially when it's quite complex, is getting people to adopt and understand what it is, get over their learning curves and any preconceptions and everything. But of course, with augmented reality, for several years now, people have been playing things like Pokemon Go, Snapchat filters. So they already know exactly what it is just by picking up their phone, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. So, Snap has kind of seeded the market with augmented reality, and people are interacting with augmented reality on a pretty regular basis. I will say that when we started out talking to people about augmented reality back in Q4 of 2018, very few people knew what we were talking about. Yeah. Today, very few people don't know what we were talking about. It's a quantum shift. I mean, in a short amount of time, and it's only going to get more and more prevalent. So the new tech, it's augmented reality on its own is exciting, but what we're doing, which is really unique, is we're integrating it into an existing platform that already has value. And so we're creating even more value. If we were just a virtual events company, Neil, that's kind of pretty exciting. That's like very timely, right?
Yeah.
But having augmented reality built into a virtual events company with robust features and functionality is really a whole nother net new technology that we're creating. And so this platform, I think, is going to be very, very valuable to NexTech and NexTech shareholders over the coming months and years. And really, I'm excited to take it to a whole nother level and really unleash it onto the world, where everybody is doing virtual conferences using augmented reality as a tool.
And for everyone listening who would like to find out a little bit of information or just delve a little bit deeper in everything that we've talked about today, what's the best way of finding you guys online, and equally contacting your team if they want to carry this conversation on we started today?
Sure. So our website is www.nextechar.com. You can always email me, evan@nextechar.com. I love hearing from potential investors or business partners, and I'm good at directing traffic. If somebody contacts me, I know who to send them to. But yeah, I mean, those are kind of the easiest ways to get in touch with us.
Excellent. Well, one of the things with new technology is we often find is technology looking for a problem to solve. But what I love about what you're doing here is you're using augmented reality and virtual events, but actually creating a solution for business growth, solving real problems with everything from product promotion to customer engagement, sales and training, and the list goes on and on. And I love how you're actually using this technology to solve those real world problems. But more than anything, just a big thank you for coming on here and sharing your story with me today. Thanks again.
Thank you, Neil. It's been great being on your show with you.
Wow, what a great guy and what a great story. And I would love to get Evan back on the podcast in the future and explore some of these tales of serendipity in a little bit more detail, because after 1,200 interviews, I'm convinced the universe gives us all a helping hand when we need it. I think most of us are walking around in a bubble and we don't even think about these things. But when I've spoken to over 1,000 people and there's a bit of a theme developing here, maybe I should be pulling these out, maybe even putting them in a book or something. But if you do have any stories around that, those kind of happy accidents that happen in life, for example, I remember speaking to a startup founder that went to his final pitch for VC funding and got nowhere. He'd got no money. His idea was in tatters. And then he was stood next to somebody at the baggage carousel that ended up helping the business thrive. And equally, again, on aeroplanes, I've had startup founders sitting on an aeroplane. They need a developer, but they can't find one anywhere. They end up sitting on a plane next to a developer. If you've got any kind of instances like that, please, I'd love for you to share them with me. And you can do that by emailing me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. My website is techblogwriter.co.uk. And you'll find all the other interviews there, along with links to my social channels. But that's it for today's episode. But I will return tomorrow, same time, same place. So a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.